Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And I'm coming to you straight out of the Midwest, out of St. Louis, Missouri. We're on May 16th. We had a devastating tornado that ravaged through the city. First time in 70 years, causing over $1.6 billion worth of damage. 8,000 buildings destroyed. Red Cross, FEMA has been here. The city and the state and the federal government are trying to provide aid to the victims. Also, we have gone through a heat alert over the last week and a half. It's going to last another couple of days. So St. Louis has been going through quite a bit here in recent times. Well, this story I have for you is about a very talented young man who comes out of St. Louis that had the fortunate circumstance to make it to the NBA, where all of his dreams were able to come true. But his story has ended in a nightmare. But let's go back and give a little historical reference to some of the great ball players in recent times that have made it to the NBA. You got people like Larry Hughes. They got drafted to the Philadelphia 76ers in 1998. Jahadi White, who went to Georgetown and played for the Washington Wizards for almost 10 years. You have Bradley Beal, who went to Chaminade and on to Florida and was the third pick in his draft class and has been in the NBA. He's only one of two players that has a no-trade contract. He just left Phoenix and looks like he's going to sign with the Clippers. And of course, we have Jason Tatum, the all-star for the Boston Celtics, who recently tore his Achilles. So St. Louis, when people think about the Mecca of basketball, they think about New York and Chicago. And of course, St. Louis is only 5 hours away. But we've had some tremendous athletes that have done great things here recently in St. Louis to put St. Louis on the basketball map. And this guy here is all encapsulated in that group. Around Bradley Beal's time was a kid named Ben Mclemore, who went to Wellston High School closed, then he went to Normandy, and then he ended up at Oak Hill, and then subsequently ended up at the University of Kansas. He had to sit out 1 year, played 1 year in Kansas, and ended up being the number 7 pick in his draft class, Ben Mclemore. Well, in America, if you work hard enough and get lucky enough, your dreams can come true. But unfortunately, this poor kid who made it to the NBA, his uptick and the brightness of his future recently got destroyed in a courtroom in Oregon. And let's talk about what happened to Mr. Ben Mclemore. Former NBA player Ben Mclemore has been sentenced to 100 months in prison after an R conviction. Former NBA player Ben Mclemore has been sentenced to 100 months, which is 8 years, 4 months in an Oregon State prison after being found guilty of R-ing and essaying a 21-year-old woman at a house party in Lake Oswego on October 3rd back in 2021. So this case has been out there and there's been rumblings about it. As I said, Ben was the number 7 pick in his draft class, went to the Sacramento Kings, never quite made it as a lasting star in the NBA, but he did get 9 or 10 years in. But this ruling that came down in this court case came down on a Thursday, July 3rd, after an 11-day trial. And then he was sentenced on July 9th. Ben Mclemore is 32 years old. I've met him before. I know his high school coach right here in St. Louis, Missouri. Seemed like a very nice kid. Came from a rough upbringing, single mother, Mom had multiple children, and Ben was one of them. But Ben is now 32. He was charged with first degree unlawful SA, and second degree SA abuse. Mclemore had pleaded not guilty to all the charges. So what brought about these charges? Prosecutors say the alleged assault occurred at Robert Covington's Lake Oswego house in October 2021. So he was playing for Ben Mclemore was playing for the Portland Trail Blazers at the time. It's probably his 5th or 6th team he had been with. He had been bouncing around the NBA. And he ended up at Mr. Robert Covington's home for a house party. And so Covington and Mclemore were teammates on the Portland Trail Blazers at the time. So did Ben Mclemore make a statement after the sentencing? So remember, he got sentenced to 100 months. That's 8 years and 4 months. And he did not make a statement. Mclemore's attorney told ESPN that we hope the Oregon legislature will adopt a second look process that would evaluate whether he should serve the entire 100-month sentence, or whether beyond the short alcohol-infused encounter that led to this conviction, or whether they should take a look at that, because both he and the young lady allegedly were intoxicated. His lawyer said he was a considerate and humble person who has lived an honorable, community-focused life. So what did the victim say? She said in the allegation that she told jurors that during the trial, the woman had been drinking heavily, passed out on a living room couch around 2 a.m. Ben was there on that couch. She said that she regained partial consciousness in the morning when Mr. Mclemore was engaging in this alleged SA abuse attack with his fingers, and then began having sex with her. Mclemore's attorneys disputed the victim's account and claimed that she initiated contact. And Ben said this on the stand, that she had initiated contact with Ben while he was asleep, fondling him and whatnot, and that she consented to it. They also asserted that the woman was sober enough to consent, even though both she and Mclemore were intoxicated. On that Wednesday, the victim appeared by video and read a statement. So there is this big controversy or issue on whether consent was available, and how do you value or equate one's level of consciousness. And so she said also, the victim said, this has been the longest almost 4 years of my life. She said, I never imagined that reporting this back in 2021 would lead to such an incredibly difficult and long journey. She said, these last few years have often felt like a weight that I've had to drag behind me. A constant reminder of the trauma that I haven't been able to fully work through because there was no ending in sight. They say at the time of the alleged assault, I had no idea. She said she had no idea who Mr. Mclemore was. Now, I find that to be somewhat questionable. If you're at Mr. Covington's home, a professional basketball player with other professional athletes, you're 21, 22 years old, you have no idea whose home you're at and what he does for a living, I dispute and don't believe that. I think the reason she probably went there as a young 21, 22-year-old young lady that wants to go party is she went there because there were NBA players there. She also said that she had no idea who Mr. Mclemore was when she found out She said she questioned whether she would move forward and report what had happened, especially given his status. She said, I came forward to hold him accountable for the harm he caused and to ensure that what happened to me never happens to anyone else. No one is above the law, she said, no matter who they are or what position they hold. Well, part of the storyline when Ben Mclemore got on the stand, he said that he left that morning. He stayed the night and left that morning. So you have a couple of things here. One is, in today's time with social media and this heightened chase the bag by any means necessary, this heightened chasing this dream to be a celebrity, this is probably the most difficult time in my lifetime to see where it is very hard to date, especially if you're a high profile person. And this whole man and woman dynamic and these broken families and homes, it is making it a very stranger danger kind of society. You see the situation happen with R. Kelly, of course, with Dr. Bill Cosby, who got convicted. The Sean Puffy Combs case, he got 2 convictions. What is all encapsulated with those 3? Even Harvey Weinstein. There was a man-woman dynamic that's taking place, and who's taking advantage of who. We have a lot of liberal laws on the books today, and have women been in a disadvantaged position against their comrades, primarily of white male counterparts? Of course. Black people, we have been secondary and tertiary. We've been in secondary and tertiary positions since the beginning of the United States of America's inception. And so now with many of these liberal laws, they're trying to raise the courts are trying to raise the stakes to giving women an even platform and an even position with men for possible alleged abuses, whether it's physical, emotional, or what have you. But one has to wonder, has the courts opened up Pandora's box too wide open for women? Now it would be almost impossible, as I said, to be an entertainer and to let a one-night stand or any kind of relationship with someone that you really don't know. And then there's also this old mantra, do you ever get to know someone? Whether you casually known them for a year or 10 years, you just never know. And now you're seeing a lot of scenarios where even Shannon Sharp, allegedly has paid out a 23-year-old woman a settlement of $23 million. He's 57 for alleged abuse, and they were in a relationship for a few years. So you're seeing this dichotomy with men and women when one is telling a story and the other is telling a different story. And there are a lot of men that are getting caught in this web of criminality, whether it's criminal or civil, and are having themselves not on a basketball court or a football field, but ending up in the court of law. This is unfortunate. I don't know Ben very well. I've been around him a few times. He seemed like a very nice person. I think where Ben probably dropped the ball is kind of a Tupac situation a little bit, in the sense that I think if you're an NBA player or you're a high net worth individual, first of all, him meeting that woman at his teammate's house, if they were going to interact with each other, he should have left with her and gotten a hotel room or taken her back to his place and allowed her to spend the night, have breakfast with her the next day. I think that this situation was based on the treatment of Ben not possibly treating her like a lady versus an item, and she ended up feeling some kind of trepidation and a violation that took place against her. It's very similar to the Tupac Shakur situation. The way you begin with a young lady, especially one you don't know, is to treat her with respect, make her feel comfortable and human, and the way you leave the situation should be the same. Treat her with respect, treat her as a human, and I don't think that this situation would probably have happened. This is a he say, she say, his word against hers. Where were the other athletes that could have come to his defense? If he's at a party at his teammate's home, how come Mr. Covington and some of these other athletes didn't get on the stand and say that what they saw in the interaction between Ben and this young lady? Maybe that could have ended up in a different circumstance for Mr. Mclemore. It seems like Ben got caught up in a web. You can always question whether he crossed the line or not. But here again, I've said in many videos, it takes a lifetime to build a career. It takes 1 minute, 1 day to destroy it. Going up that hill of building your career is a slow, steady pace. Going on the other side in the form of decline or rapidly falling apart can take place in 1 minute. This is a very unfortunate situation for Mr. Mclemore and the young lady, if those allegations are true. If they are true, of course, if she felt like something happened, an assault took place, she's definitely going to suffer from PTSD, and she will definitely need psychological therapy and support for sure. And I'm sure once she found out that he was an NBA player, not only is there a criminal conviction, but I'm sure she is going to sue him civilly. And as you all know, remember, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, he went through a similar situation in Denver. This whole chasm of he say, she say, man versus woman, woman versus man, is getting very more complicated and difficult in today's time. This is a very tough time in society today to date, especially if you're an entertainer, an athlete, a high visible businessman. I think it makes it a very tough position to be in. Many of these athletes, I think, in order to get around this scenario, is to find you a decent woman, get married early, and go to work and go home. Stay away from these nightclubs. Stay away from these situations of one-night stands. This is not the 70s anymore. We in a new day and time. And many of these courts, whether you're going through divorce or you're going through an assault case, they are generally going to side with the woman that I've noticed in recent history. And then you also have this color barrier, black versus white again. Big black athlete versus little small young white female. Very similar to the Shannon Sharpe scenario in and of itself. So you're feeding into old stereotypes. And of course, the majority of the time when these young men are going to court in these criminal cases, what are they seeing? Typically a white judge, the majority of white jurors. I don't know what the populace of the state of Oregon or Portland looks like from a race standpoint, but my assumption or presumption is that there are probably more white people than black. The state statute states that he is this is going to change his entire life. Not only did he get an 8.5-year conviction, but he's going to have 11 years behind that where he's got to report to a probation officer, and he will have to register as a sex offender. So you're talking about a young man, 32, he's going to spend the next 20 years involved in criminal court, spending 8.5 or 6 to 8 years in prison, followed by or a backup of 11 years of probation, and then he has to register for the rest of his life. Hopefully he has saved his money, but this one decision that I'm sure that he wish he could take back. And if he did not force himself on this woman, this is going to haunt him forever. If he did, and it was not consensual, this situation is going to haunt her forever. Neither one of them, as adults, should have put themselves in that position. It is heartfelt and it is heartbreaking to see both of them go through this situation. But it's happening every day. You saw the Sean Puffy Combs scenario. You're seeing a lot of these cases where we have this dichotomy and this fight between men and women in today's time. We need to get back to a fabric where men and women are getting along, trying to build a solid family base. In America, we have over a 57% divorce rate. People are quicker to leave than to stay. So we have to have a reverberation of our moral and ethical integrity, and to build up each other's humanity and the family, the moral and ethical positive basis for the family structure here in America today. We are falling apart emotionally, morally, and ethically, chasing the bag by any means necessary. We are falling apart and going down a downward spiral as fast as possible. This is not a good situation. I feel for the victim, and I feel for Ben Mclemore, who had reached the highest level of sports in the NBA, had his life in the palm of his hands, and now he went from living a dream into now his new existence is a reverberating nightmare. The last thing about Mr. Mclemore, he last played in the NBA in 2022. He was drafted 7th overall in the 2013 draft, and he played for 5 teams. Most recently, he played professional basketball internationally in China and Europe. So Ben had been making several $1 million a year for at least a 10-year period, and then I'm sure he was making $1 million over there in China and Europe. So there is a financial incentive there also. So not only did he get criminally convicted, but I'm sure there will be a civil suit and judgment against him and a payout that he will have to pay to this young lady. You're seeing a lot of this going on in today's time. You have the Mann Act. People need to pay attention to their state and federal laws, and engaging in relationships with and or dating can be a dangerous thing in today's time. Tell me what you think about this story on ex-NBA player Ben Mclemore getting convicted and having to serve at least 100 months in an Oregon state prison. What an unfortunate circumstance for Mr. Mclemore.